Welcome back to the video series for VCheese 6, an online Heroscape event run by the OHS team. As a reminder, this event is a double elimination bracket, and I'm running 4x Heavy Gruts with Grimnak, Narak, and Hrognak. This is round 4, where I'm facing SRD, who has 5 squads of Death Chasers with Adalbern and Raylan. This game is on Arboretum, with Zawit and Lorja Ivor as the glyphs. If you're wondering where round 3 is, I was able to skip round 3 of the double elimination bracket because I won my first 2 games, so there's no video for that round. This is a close matchup, though I do think the heavies have the slight advantage. Adalbern definitely has the edge on Grimnak without any doubt, but heavies also have the edge on chasers, as they're a 4-person squad with quite similar base stats when all of the auras here are at play. Some heavies will be at 5 defense, some heavies will only be at 3 attack, but a lot of them will end up being the same 4-4 base stats that the chasers will have with Raylan. However, if any of the battle happens outside of her aura, then I have a significant advantage there, as 2 defense Death Chasers will fall quite quickly. In terms of planning and development, Death Chasers really want to stay in Raylan's aura, which ends up being a bit of a limiting factor, whereas my army has more flexibility. Ideally, I'll be able to make SRD have to double move Raylan, though a very aggressive Raylan move early might avoid that. But if he does that, then I'll have a chance to kill her before the Death Chasers close around her. For my side, I want to develop Narak somewhere safe early, and then try to build up heavies on height somewhere. I have the only ranged piece, Hrognak, so I do have some ping ability to force the battle to happen on my terms, which is a great thing when my opponent has a Raylan that needs to keep up. Both of us should want to fully slow roll our armies before the main collision happens, though, depending on where the Death Chasers are, I might end up getting Hrognak pings in before that happens. Against ranged builds, Hrognak provides more value from the movement aura, but against pure melee, the ranged attack itself has a ton of value, and I need to prioritize getting value out of that early, before the collision happens, as after we engage, I'll be bonding mostly with Grimnak until he dies. Depending on where SRD battle rushes to, and where Raylan goes, I might develop heavies up the middle or onto one of the sides of the map. These glyphs aren't highly relevant, as it's probably not going to be worth taking Lorja Ivor to help Hrognak, though Zawit could have some sneaky utility for either army. For now, I'm looking at these potential Narak placements. My advantage is that my army is more mobile, as I don't have to rely on Raylan's aura, so depending on where SRD develops to, I'll adjust to try to pull his Death Chasers away from Raylan's aura. So, that's the plan. Let's hop on into the game and see how it goes. I place first, and I set up Narak to where he can reach most of those spots in one move, Grimnak off to the side, but where he can reach the center of the plateau in one move, and Hrognak central to support as many fellow orcs as possible. SRD then places Raylan at the front of the start zone, where she can reach as many spaces as possible in one move, and Adalbern at the back, which makes sense, as he'll be moving plenty of times before the engagement happens anyways. Death Chasers then battle rush forward around the central ruin. SRD wins initiative and moves Raylan up, though I think she should have moved further forward, especially with SRD winning this initiative and me not having any heavies yet up to engage her with. At this point, my plan to go right is pretty much quashed with this battle rush plus Raylan placement, so it'll be central or left for me. I develop Grimnak up onto the plateau and start bringing heavies over from the right side. Adalbern moves up, and Death Chasers ascend to the height on SRD's side of the road. I move Narak left to where he can cover the center height, or move further left if I make that pivot, and roll more heavies in that general leftward direction. Death Chasers then close off the front height. At this point, I decided to commit to fully rolling left, and use Hrognak pings to pull the Death Chasers over. I sent Hrognak that direction and take a shot, but miss. One heavy protects Hrognak's height, while others move that direction. The water in the start zone is making that process take longer than I'd prefer, though. SRD wins the round 2 initiative, and Death Chasers pivot left as well, matching the direction of the heavies. Back to me, and I remember in-game thinking that the Order Marker 2 was likely on Raylan, as otherwise there wasn't much else the Death Chasers could do here. I brought Grimnack around to the left, in Hrognak's aura, where he'd be able to catch Raylan anywhere she moved to, and advance more heavies up to the plateau. The 2 is indeed on Raylan, who can't move anywhere safely, and ends up staying put. I think this decision in isolation is correct, but I think Death Chasers should have proactively built a pocket for her to fly into on the previous Order Marker, where she could have then moved there safely. Back to me, and I'd like to take this game state to discuss the 2 broad options that I had for this game. The one I went with was trying to use Hrognak pings to pull Death Chasers over, or make Raylan double move, which definitely has merit, and is probably right if I can hold height in where I'm pulling the Death Chasers into. However, if I'm not able to hold height in that spot, I think it ends up being a worse overall approach than just developing directly to my side of the central height and using Hrognak pings there to make Death Chasers engage me from low ground. If I had done that instead, I could have timed my development there to come in at the end of this round, where I would have had a potential initiative switch. But because I was developing so hard left instead, I didn't have heavies developed enough to take advantage of that opportunity now. Instead, I end up moving Narak again, further left, and committing to the pull Death Chasers over strategy. But the issue here is that I can't block off the 4 hex height spots now with heavies, or Death Chasers can just engage them inside Raylan's aura, and then this whole pull them over strategy isn't accomplishing anything. So I end up letting them have easier access to that height than I should. One Death Chaser pushes to the far left height, and another takes Zawit. I bring Hrognak to cover the height next to Narak, as Hrognak isn't chompable, and take the ping shot, but miss. I fill in that direction with heavies, trying to make sure that Death Chaser on Zawit doesn't have any good opportunity to hit Narak from height. The Zawit Death Chaser ends up staying put. This approach may still have worked well had I lost the following initiative, but I end up winning it, which is quite bad. I expect SRD to try to move his Raylan again, meaning his Death Chasers can come in at the end of this round for the potential switch into me. I move Hrognak more central to get a better shot and cover more heavies developing, but miss another ping. Heavies push up around Narak. In hindsight, I actually wonder whether I should have come in on this turn. SRD has the 1 on Raylan, and she moves over next to the height covered by a Death Chaser. Back to me, and I think I'm now forced to come in here. If I don't, SRD will get 2 turns of attacks and the potential switch. I think my best play here is to try and kill Raylan in 2 turns, and block Adalbern from getting to Grimnak on the next turn, to keep him alive through my Order Marker 3. To accomplish that, Grimnak comes in and chomps the Death Chaser on height, and I bring in 4 heavies. 2 of them hit Raylan, putting 4 wounds on her, and I elect not to attack the Death Chasers with the others, as this way Adalbern can't get through the center. Bernie elects to go around the top and crushes 1 heavy, but is stuck on low ground to do so, which I forced him to do in order to get an attack in. 1 Death Chaser is able to take height on Grimnak, and 1 has an even ground shot. Unfortunately for me, the height attack does 3 wounds, and the even ground one hits a 4 out of 4 to finish off Grimnak in 1 turn of 2 attacks. Ouch. That's probably going to seal this game for SRD. But let's take this opportunity to use the good old damage calculator to find out the probability of Grimnak dying to just those 2 attacks. Because it's 2 different attacks, the calculation is a bit more complicated. To start, let's pull up the chart for those 2 attacks, the 5v5 and a 4v5. We need to find each permutation of these outcomes that results in at least 5 wounds for Grimnak. To do so, we can use the central column from the first 5v5 attack to consider the 6 possible direct outcomes, and then, for each of them, look at the right column for the follow-up 4v5 to see how many wounds were needed to finish off Grimnak. If the first attack did 0 wounds, then the second attack can't kill Grimnak. If the first one did 1 wound, 25.33%, then the second attack would have to do 4 wounds, which is 0.82%. So we multiply those probabilities and get 0.2% for that combo. We do the same for each of the 6 initial outcomes, and add those multiplied probabilities together, giving us this equation, which gives us the final probability of about 5%, or almost the same odds as rolling a 1 on Wannick. As played, I'm certainly fine taking that risk, but I still think the other development option would have been a better overall approach, or coming in 1 order marker earlier, since even if Grimnack takes a reasonable number of wounds here, he's still likely to die if SRD gets the initiative switch. Anyways, Grimnack is down. I send Herognac to the max height single hex spot and take this shot on Raylan, finishing her off, and I send in 1 squad of heavies, who kill 3 Death Chasers, but Adalburn blocks the 4v3. Adalburn moves away from height, I miss the LEA, and he crushes a heavy, and Death Chasers get 2 more heavies. Damn, that was a bloody 2 turns of action. Massive initiative roll here, which SRD wins. Adalburn moves up and gets 2 heavies, and Death Chasers get 2 more from height. Pretty brutal initiative switch there. I swing Narak around to take height on Adalburn, with the plan that, if I do a bunch of wounds here, I'd surround him with heavies to try to finish him off in 1 turn as a Hail Mary play. However, Narak only manages 1 wound on him, so I end up sending heavies to deal with Death Chasers instead, hoping to get 2 LEAs through on Adalburn. Heavies get the 2 Death Chasers in my area. Adalburn takes the double LEA, but only 1 goes through, and kills 2 more heavies. Death Chasers then get another heavy and kill Narak. Kinda wild to think that everything that has died here did so in just 1 round of turns. Herognac kills a Death Chaser, and I decided to split up my heavies so Adalburn couldn't get more than 1 of them, and they kill 3 Death Chasers and put 1 more wound on Bernie. There's definitely an argument that I should have just sold out again to try and 1 turn kill Adalburn, though. I'm not sure which route gives me the better Hail Mary chances here, though, to be honest. Adalburn and the Death Chasers then kill all 4 remaining heavies on the next turn, burning my order marker 3. The endgame here is just for ceremonial purposes, as Death Chasers and Adalburn surround Hrognak's last stand and cut down the brave Orc champion to win this one, and I move into the 1-loss portion of the bracket for this event, while SRD moves into the top 8 single elimination portion of the bracket. Adalburn might be good. I do think there were other things I could have done differently in this one, though, and I hope to get my chance for revenge on the Death Chasers later, if I can win a few more games to get there.